Hi there everybody. This is my video response and entry into Stefan's 2-year YouTube anniversary contest. I've chosen to cook today, and the dish I've chosen is chicken Marengo. Quite an interesting history behind this dish, and I will tell you a little bit about that just after I go over the ingredients list. It's fairly simple, nothing too complicated. So what we're going to start with obviously is chicken. Now normally you would take a whole chicken, cut it up, 2 breasts, 2 thighs, 2 legs, that kind of thing, skin it. In this case though, I've actually opted for just some boneless, skinless thighs, which will help reduce the cooking time slightly, but because it's a thigh, it'll help maintain some of the moisture. You won't get dry chicken. What you're also going to need is you're going to need 1/4 to 1/2 cup of flour in order to dredge the chicken. You're going to need about 16 ounces of sliced mushrooms. You're going to need a medium onion, minced or chopped into medium sized pieces. You're going to need 2 cloves of garlic, chopped very finely. You're going to need approximately 1 tablespoon of dried thyme. You're going to need 2 tablespoons of butter, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, approximately 14.5 ounces of diced tomato, some salt and pepper, 1 bouillon cube, about 2 tablespoons of chopped parsley, 1 cup of white wine. In this case I've chosen a Sauvignon Blanc, mostly because it what happened to be in my pantry. And optional is some cognac. Now I didn't have cognac, I did have some brandy. Cognac of course being brandy that happens to be made in the Cognac region of France. So those are the ingredients we're going to need. Preparation and cook time will vary slightly depending on the type of chicken you've chosen. In this case, we're probably looking at a total prep and cook time of just around an hour. Now, chicken Marengo, let's go over some of the history here. I found it quite interesting, and I thought due to Stefan's use of history and his actually recent video on the Legault knife and the bee in relating to Napoleon, I thought this was an interesting one. Supposedly this dish was first served to Napoleon June 14th of 1800. Supposedly this was just after or perhaps during the Battle of Marengo, where Napoleon was victorious over the Austrians. This battle effectively drove the Austrians out of Italy. There is a legend that says that his chef, Dunand, created it just from the local ingredients he could get his hands on. Another part of the legend says that after eating this dish, Napoleon returned to the battle and the fight turned to his favor, so he insisted therefore on eating it before every battle. Now Napoleon would have probably eaten this over a piece of grilled bread with a fried egg on top, and I may serve it that way just for that historical feel. Today it's usually served just over rice. Also in the original recipe there were crayfish added. Most recipes, modern recipes, you don't see crayfish. I didn't happen to have any at the fishmonger, so I'm going to leave those out as well. Okay, so now that you know some history and the ingredients, what we're going to do is we're going to get to cooking. Okay, so the first step in preparing this dish is to get the chicken ready. And what you're going to do is you're just going to, well, you can sprinkle them individually with salt and pepper. What I'm going to do is put them in this bowl, sprinkle with salt and pepper, give it a little mix, and then we're going to dredge in flour. So let's get these chicken thighs in the bowl. Basically what I've done actually is I've just cleaned these chicken breasts up, or these chicken thighs up just a little bit, just because sometimes they can be a little too fatty, and I actually happen to find a few more in the fridge, so I'm just going to add those in as well. Might as well feed the entire family. Okay, so what we're going to do now is actually just quickly give my hands a bit of a clean. and then add the salt and pepper to the dish. So just a couple quick cracks. Don't want to overdo it. Same with the salt. Don't need to over salt. You can always salt when you're eating it. Okay, so there's some salt and pepper, and like I said, just going to give this a bit of a mix to get that all incorporated in. And now, what you can't see is just over here on the stove, I have turned the element on. You can probably just hear that start up. And just on medium heat, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my butter and my oil to a pan and let that butter melt and have the oil just come up to a nice temperature. When that's hot, what I'll be doing is I'll be browning the chicken off. So what I'm going to do here is, as I wait for that, I'm going to start dredging the chicken. So what I'm going to do is get another bowl. There we go. And here's my flour. And so what we're just going to do is basically just a quick dust in the flour. Make sure it's coated. Give it a bit of a shake. You don't want any excess. Put it in this bowl. So this will just take a couple of quick seconds. Like I say, I'm doing a little bit more than what you would normally see, but it's because I've decided to feed the family today. I'm sure they'll appreciate it. So quickly here, my butter is melting in my pan, so I've got just a couple of seconds to get this done. And basically what you want to do is make sure that there's a decent coating. You don't want it all clumped up. The flour, you don't want it all clumped up on the chicken. You'll just end up with sort of, cutting into it or biting into this big sort of lump of flour, which is just never going to be very tasty. Okay, so the butter is now fully melted. So what I'm going to do is basically start putting this chicken in. What you're looking for is you're just looking to brown it. You want to sort of get the heat on there pretty good, get some color on the chicken. What's going to happen too is you're going to see that a lot of the flour is going to end up sort of in the oil, which is fine. It's going to cook off, it's going to get brown, it's going to add a little bit of flavor when you add your other ingredients. Okay, so I'm going to start dropping this chicken in. You won't be able to see it, but you'll probably be able to hear it. So let's just see here. Yep, got some sizzle going there, so that's perfect. So just going to keep putting these in. And like I say, we're going to look for a bit of a brown. Not too much. You don't want it burnt, obviously. But you do want it colored. So I think this is going to take 2 batches in my pan. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to stop the video here and finish browning the chicken. Once I've browned all the chicken, I'll come back and show you the next step. Okay, so as you can see, I've now browned off the chicken, and the pan is got some brown stuff in the bottom, and what we're going to do is go ahead and start adding our other ingredients, clean all that up, start making our sauce. Please forgive my shaky camera work. I've had to use my mobile since my tripod broke and my camera is not working. Now, the next step, after you've removed the chicken, is we're going to add the onion and the garlic to this pot. So this needs to be a little bit loud, but what we're going to do is just make sure we get that all in there. Don't want to waste any of that garlic. Okay. And once that's in, we're going to give it a bit of a stir. Start using the tongs to sort of work up some of that crispy sort of brown flour from the bottom. And as you can see, it's transferring onto the onions. At least I hope you can. And now I'm going to be doing this for about 5 minutes or so. So again, I'm going to cut here and come back for the next step. Okay, So as not to deafen you with the sound of onions cooking, I've gone ahead and cooked the onions and garlic down for 5 minutes. I then added my 1 cup of wine, my 14 ounces of tomatoes, my bouillon cube, and then my dried thyme. So what I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to add the chicken back and then put a lid on it, turn it down to low, and let it sort of simmer for about 20 minutes. Normally it would be 30 minutes, but because I'm using a boneless chicken, I'm reducing that down to 20. So what we'll do is we'll just get that chicken added and we'll come back in about half an hour. Okay, so at this point things have been simmering away for about 15 minutes. So we've got about another 15 to go. Well, like I said, maybe 10. What you'll notice is that because of the flour, the liquid has thickened slightly as it cooks, and this should continue, and then once you take it off the heat and let it cool slightly, it should thicken even further. Now at this particular point what we're going to be doing is we're actually going to add in our mushrooms. So we're just going to dump those in there. I'm going to put the lid back on, and we're going to cook for, like I say, probably another 10 minutes. What I am going to do is in about 5 minutes is I'm going to be adding in the brandy. Now it's a small amount, it's just 1 teaspoon, and it is optional, you don't have to add it. But that's where we're at right now. I'm also going to be toasting up a bit of bread, frying an egg, and once we come back I'll actually show you the finished dish. So I hope you'd enjoyed cooking, and let's wait and see what it looks like when it's done. Okay, so here we are. Here is the finished dish. I did decide to do the egg and toast the way that Napoleon would have eaten it. As you can see, it's nice, it's fresh looking. The chicken is very tender. There's a nice sauce right now being soaked up by that lovely crispy bread. And all in all, a very good, very easy meal to prepare. And if it was good enough for an emperor, it's probably good enough for you or I. So pour yourself a little bit of that nice wine that you used to cook, and bon appetit.